May board meeting to order. Let's all stand for pledge and a brief.
We don't have a flag.
Okay, we'll go ahead and say it anyway.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everyone, thank you. So the first item we need to approve is that of the agenda. Everybody have some time to look at that.
I make a motion to approve it.
Okay. Second. We have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed the same. 6-0. Okay, Brad, a safety minute and a cool moment.
So my safety moment for this month is tick prevention. There's been quite a bit of talk at our statewide. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the health department urging against any precautions. Sounds kind of funny, but ticks this year they say are going to be really, really bad. Our guys are normally walking in areas where there's grassy areas, and that's where they say ticks are prone to be. So just some things to remember. Know where ticks are likely to be present. So close to the ground, bushy wooded areas. Treat your boots, clothing. We actually have some stuff that the guys use that they put on their gear. Use EPA registered insect repellents with active ingredients such as like DEET. And then treat your pets for ticks in consultation with your veteran. So just remember, if you're out and about, we make sure we try to tell our guys that to be looking for ticks. As you know, they can carry some pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so cool moment. I wanted to highlight the marketing and communication department. So Crystal and Abby, essentially. We were awarded, so the Little Crew Club is a club. Brian, I think actually your son's in it. So it's a club that we basically brought to life last year. So they get things sent to them and get to interact with us and their co-op. So we actually won the 2025 Gold Award for Best Wild Card Play to Gator County REMC. So this was amongst the 900 and some co-ops that are under NRECA. So I thought that was really, really cool, and just wanted to congratulate Crystal and Abby and their work on that. So
Great. All right. Next item is for your information. Any questions or concerns? Now's the time to ask.
So as we do every year too, our 990 is in here.
This is random for Matt, probably. But the janitorial deal, is that 1 month or is that also the lawn?
Check register page 1. You got it or you need it?
I believe that's 1 month for the janitorial.
Okay.
Let me think about that. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay, what page is it?
Might be
I'll tell you in about 30 seconds.
Is it extra long tail?
That's what it was last month. I noticed that as well.
Okay.
That's probably just cleaning. You do the math.
I think it is.
And that was half of what it would be.
Yeah,
With
it's still
the
way
professional.
cheaper. That's a very good job.
we're not going to be happy when that service is no longer available.
Are you anticipating that soon?
No, I don't think we've had any indication of that.
It's a math problem.
Yeah.
It's a math problem. At a certain age, you no longer can do it. And we're north of the age where things start to fall apart. Yeah, that is the cleaning.
Anybody have anything else? Are we good? All right, let's go to the next item then, the approval of the previous board minutes. April's minute.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Do we have a first
Second.
and a second? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, the same. 6-0. All right, I guess we're ready for some dates.
All right. So I'm gonna give some project updates. Number one being fiber. So got a week coming up that's gonna be pretty awesome. I'm looking so forward to it. So fiber materials arriving daily at the staging location. So I think as of this morning, we had about 20 some reels. And fiber is usually the long leading thing. So we've got enough to get going. Our required make ready at DCREMC is complete. So we've done all the make ready that we need to do. We are still working on some third party attachers. So there are a few different companies that we found poles where they have their communications too high, right? So it's in the power space, therefore being a safety issue. It's not going to slow down our project, but I think we want to take care of those. And so we've sent letters. I think the next step is to send some legal letters, kind of giving them time to respond, but that's one thing that's still out there. Our construction will start June 3rd. So that is next week. And so DNH has been on site. Everybody's going to be here on June 3rd. We're kind of doing a kickoff here. We have to do a safety thing, all that. So all of our contractors will be here on site on the 3rd, which is next week. We will then go back out to our pool yard, so the training area, and they're going to hang fiber and show everybody how our system is basically going to be put together. And essentially, they're going to let the crews break loose, and we will start building fiber on the 4th. So very exciting. You may hear from members. We had to, per some Indiana state legislation from last year, you have to send notice that you are hanging fiber in your existing and if you don't, if you ever get challenged, you wouldn't have that easement for fiber. So there is a card going out. It was in an email you guys got last week that Abby sent too, if you want to see it, but it's a very lengthy card and probably doesn't make any sense. But essentially what it is, it's following the letter of what the law tells you have to do. And you had to send it to every single landowner that will be crossing. So we've even sent them to some that are really close, right, where our lines kind of break a property edge. And so if you get asked or you get them yourselves, that's what they're all for. They have to be sent out 180 days prior to construction in those areas. So again, if you get asked, we are getting some calls generated from it. People just asking, can they get fiber internet service? Because some of them, it's not even an area, that we may be serving. We're just kind of coming by. So anyways, that's going out. We are already getting some cell tower quotes. So we actually had 5 requests for cell towers on our system where we're building. And 3 of those actually made sense when we did the design and testing. It actually made a lot of sense, right? They're within a mile of where our lines are going to be. So we went ahead and put in out of the 5, 3 bids. The bids basically include them paying for everything. So I didn't bring it to the board just because you're not really out any money. It's just, it would be a partnership again with SCI. We would split those into our agreement. So there is a grant program. It's called Indiana Connectivity Program. The applications are due June 1st. It's called ICP Round 14. So we'll be applying. There are several addresses, I think 8 to be exact, that we can reach from phase 1, our phase 1 build out. And therefore we're going to be there anyway. And so there's 8 addresses. You can get up to 4,800 per address. So you can do the math there of some money that we'll be able to bring in that we didn't. On the downside, and I don't know what to tell you other than I'm running down what I can on this, but we got a letter from the Indiana Broadband Office saying you need to reduce your grant by, and I think it was about 13 addresses, which is a tune of about $100,000. And so we obviously asked, why would we do that? And the answer is the federal government came out with a program that was for telcos that was around the same timing of Next Level. And what they're saying is they doubled up. So the math's were incorrect. And because you can't double up, and the other program was out for Next Level awards by like a day or 2, they've elected to keep those with that original grant. So they've essentially taken 13 addresses away from us, which is a tune of about $100,000. So obviously I got on the phone with Steve Cox and said, my board made a decision based upon financials. You guys are taking away, this is like, I'm going to go out and bid a new house and I know who I'm going to go bid with, and I go start buying materials, and now it's going to cost me twice as much, right? Doesn't seem like it's very fair that we have to pay the price for the state and federal governments not talking, because that's essentially what it is. Their maps were doubling up. Steve told me he was going to talk, because this is an FCC program. So Steve Cox from the Indiana Broadband Office is making some phone calls. I'm quite certain there's not going to be anything that's going to be done. I do have 2 calls in, and Ryan Heater has a call into Aaron Hutchinson's, I did say it right, into their office to at least hear our voice as far as, how many more are there going to be like this? Because obviously we've made decisions based upon financials. We've already ordered material for this stuff, right? So we have to build to them, and then they take away the grant money, and they wouldn't, because our recommendation was, okay, fine, we get it. You don't want to do 2 addresses with the same amount. Then take out those addresses, but give us the same funding amount, just up the funding amount for all the other addresses that we did get. And the federal government's program will not allow you to do. So I think the state has a hands tied, and it's not they can necessarily do. So that's the only bad news. I'm going to keep going. So the meter replacement program, just to give you an update. So we've installed the 3, what they call DCUs. So these are the control modules that are on top of the poles that'll be basically kind of like repeaters. And then 3 meters that we've installed for testing requirements. We're testing that. We're in process, and right now there's actually been no issues identified. The NISC integration has been kicked off, and it's supposed to be done in September. So that is all the integration with going to the new Aclara type programs. And then the rest of the DCUs are supposed to be here on 6/10 to be installed by 7/1. We'll start the validation testing on 7/1. It'll be complete by 8/1. We will start replacing meters on 8/1 with the goal being done right now. It looks like everything is good to have it done by the end of the year. We did trace down the fact of, is tariffs going to affect us? They have assured us that our orders were placed in a time frame that it will not be affected. They're already in the States, all the electronics. I can't guarantee that, but that's what they're telling me is that there's nothing you can really do. When you place your orders, I don't want to use the word guarantee, but it should not be affected essentially. We'll keep going, Steve. Operations building update. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but obviously as we're sort of starting to put this together. We're at the early planning stages, I would say, of this building. Wanted to talk about that. We got that later in the agenda we can discuss. And then the cost of service study. So we are still on track. The draft is due here. So for us on 6/27, we plan to present to the board in August. And then our goal is to have tariffs approved by October with you all. So we're still on track to all that. So good with that. Any other projects, updates that I didn't touch on that you'd like to know more about?
Will Larry be coming to that August meeting then?
Yes, Larry will be coming to the August meeting, but Larry has had some, I don't know if you guys knew or not, but a couple of years ago, he was diagnosed with cancer. And so he's got some speech problems. So he does have 2 or 3 guys that work with him. Larry will be here, but probably won't be presenting just because his speech is not well. So.
You said it's hard for him to talk.
But yes, the goal is August. Any other questions about any other projects we got going on?
I think we're good.
We go through the metrics? Sure. All right, so April metrics. We'll start with the April's median temperature. It was 3.6% warmer than our 5-year average. So it doesn't look like a bunch there in that graph, but a little bit warmer than what our 5-year was. So from a wholesale purchase energy, we were up about 7% when compared to our 5-year average. And then you look at demand. Demand was about 4.4% above our 5-year average. So then how does that have an overall impact? Well, sorry, go to this one. So then in retail sales, so residential, we were above about 5.8. That's typically weather driven. You have commercial, which is pretty much flat. Industrial load is still down for the entire year. That's really being driven by 2 industrials, mainly 1. And then our transmission load is about 5% above. So if you look at all that together, we ended last year, and I thought this was maybe a mistake at first, but we ended last month at 3.82 above budget in total in sales. And so we ended this month at 3.28 above budget. So basically pretty flat over last month when it comes to budget. Now I'll move on to reliability metrics. So you can see there, obviously the one storm that we had. Other than that, it's been pretty calm. You look at the lost consumer hours, we were about 1,464 compared to 4,000. So normally April is a stormy month. Wasn't too bad for us. March is where we kind of saw that happen. And then a number of outages, we were at 62 compared to 43 on our 5-year average. So we were above in outages, but sort of below in hours. And then I think the last thing I had there was the top outages were trees not right. We're still seeing a lot of trees outside of the right of way. These dead ash trees are they're still falling. Any other questions from a metric standpoint? We good? All right, we're good.
Matt, continue with the financial update.
Okay, financials, there's two things to note on the balance sheets that were A and B. In general, our current asset or total current assets, accrued assets, they decreased by $1 million. That was mainly due to reduction in cash, which was about 800,000 of it. And most of the rest was the reduction in our AR Energy amount from the prior month. So nothing really spectacular there. I mean, we paid bills, that's our money. Same thing with liabilities, total current accrued liabilities. We paid multiple items, property tax was a big one I noticed, and then the overall issue. There wasn't anything that stuck out as a real oddball thing there in general. It's just a lot of bills got paid. Then next is the statement of operations and revenues. If you notice, I got A and C there. Our gross margin is out of whack this month to a certain extent, and that's due to the $200,000 in legal pole contact income. That comes through as operating. If you looked at the key revenue sheet in your board packet, it showed up at the bottom as rent on the electrical system. So that kind of throws off the metrics there. So it makes so our gross margin was effectively, instead of, it's really $32,000 if you take that out versus 232. So all in all, I mean, things are following, I would say, in line there. I mean, that's pretty close. Controllable expenses. Biggest thing there is we are ahead on right away. Some of the other stuff is just timing on things. In general, that's really the main things that stuck out this month. There's not a lot of oddball things. April was a fairly calm month usually. And then you can see the cash decrease from on the last page from last month to this month. So. Cash decrease is the timing of when you pay bills, more than anything else. Next is the plant. Not a ton of changes from last month. We got a few more of the pole replacement stuff that's come through. I know there's some larger invoices that came through in May. In general, they're making progress on that stuff. It's what I always figure is they complete the work and then we get the bill. But a lot of times they'll have the work done in April. I'll get the bill late May. We'll pay it in June. So it doesn't always, I always figure it's a 60-day cycle from the time they finish, and they may have 90% of it done a month before they bill us even. So when we've talked about all the poles being done, he's got 5 left on a work order, and I haven't seen a single dollar of expense yet, which I'm not going to complain. I mean, use their money to start with. Any questions on the plant?
Vehicle deal in April. Is that just?
That was the payment on a chassis for the truck. No, I don't think that one comes till 27. Actually, we had to buy the chassis or pay for the chassis, and we wanted to do that so we got it in before there's a new emissions rule coming out in another. We wanted to make sure we got it before the next round of emissions. So we made sure we did that so that it'll be done. And then once the truck is built, then it gets sent to the utility bed manufacturer, and then they put it on. It's anywhere from 18 to 36 months, depending on which truck you get.
So that's one of those where you approve the entire truck, not coming in for a few years.
Yeah.
But it's going to hit the financials as an over budget because we knew it wasn't going to come in for a couple of
Well,
years.
we wanted to make sure we got it too before the emissions change. Emissions are a wonderful thing when you're heavy trucks, especially ones that sit idle. Any other questions on the financials in general or any questions in general.
We good? All right. Thanks, Matt. We'll continue on. We'll go into the discussion with the
All right, so it's not every day I get to come in here and ask you guys that we're running so far ahead that we want some more money. So our current contractor we have really, between our crews and ARC, we have really knocked this. I mean, we've never been sitting where we are today, and we're completely through not only have all the backlog. I mean, so you're looking at 250 polls done at a plan of 152. And so we are smoking it. ARC, we would love, the nice thing about ARC is they're all from around here. So they know people in our community. That has been a big deal on these meter pulls is like, we didn't want to just send any contractors out, right? These people know folks, they're ahead. So what we're proposing to possibly do is to shift their focus from, they're done with the pole replacements and shift them over to the meter red tag poles. And here's why. So, number one, these are safety. If you think about all of the poles that we have, meter poles are probably the most safety adverse, right? Because if you break a 3-phase pole, you break a single phase pole that's in line, 9 times out of 10, it's probably not even going to hit the ground, right? The wire's going to hold it up a lot of times. Whereas these meter poles, if it breaks, it's going down. And so we've had, that happen in the past. So there's a big safety component here too. So we are today, we put in there 96 of these meter pools last year. If you remember, we came up with 96 because we backed into where we wanted to be on the plant spend. And that's just the number that we generally came up with. And so we're about 15% on that. And the reason is that these pools, they take the coordination that it takes to get, from, hey, I'm going to meet with a member to decide, kind of what the options are to, okay, now we know you have to coordinate it with their electricians. So their electricians have to come out. There's just a ton, and then they got to get red tags or green tagged from the city inspectors. Then you got to coordinate to get our crews out with their crews. It's just a logistical nightmare, and it takes up a lot of time. And so a lot of times this gets put sort of like as fill-in work because we've been really, really busy too. So it's like, okay, our number one goal is when a member comes in and needs a new service, that's number one goal, right? And so we've been so busy on those and the logistics of these. We're 15%, but we're only at not even halfway through the year. So our suggestion is let's get back on track here. And let's go after some of these polls and let's move this to ARC so that they can focus on that's all they're doing is these meter polls. Our also thought was when we approached them about this, they started giving us some cost. Their cost compared to our cost is literally like about $200 a pole difference. So that's pretty close in the grand scheme of things. And they'll take, the brunt of the work of working with the members. So where we came with this is let's not only do the 96 and get caught up, or when I say get caught up, do what was in the budget. Let's go ahead. If we put ARC on this, I don't think there's any way they'll get the backlog done this year, but let's give them the budget to try it, right? So there's 118 polls minus the 15 that we've already done that are left to get us all updated on red tag meter polls. So if you do the math and you do the average of what we think the actual costs are right now on these meter polls compared to what they've estimated us, and you do all 118, which would get us all the way, there is no backlog on meter polls. You're asking about an ask of roughly, and this is probably plus or minus 5% at least, 370,000. So for 370,000, we think we could at least, and again, I'm not committing to having all 118 done because I think that would be an act of God because there's going to be a couple members that aren't going to be ready, don't have the money.
There's a
Matt took 3 years from his done. So, but I do think if we could get, maybe, let's put the challenge in front of our contractors. They've been working out really, really well. They do know folks in the area.
Leaders, Westport.
Yeah, they're leaders from Westport. And so let's see, let's challenge them to see if we can't get caught up on these. So I brought this to you because we're not going to get to the 96 by the end of the year. We've got time to do something about it. Let's pivot and let's do it. And let's get done with all the other. Go ahead.
118 to start the year.
No, so 96 is in the budget. So we put
118 out there too, did
Yes.
correct.
You had 96 for this year. You've done 15.
Yep.
So you want to go ahead and do more than we had allocated for the year to start with.
Absolutely.
Go to the 118 instead of the 96 potentially, knowing that they're probably not going to be able to get all this done.
Say if we get 100 done, we do great.
But you never know. I mean,
So this ask is for an up to amount really. with
absolutely. Up to,
the 370.
yes.
The total, yeah.
I think it's a good use of members' money. We've got margins to support this. I think it's a very smart investment,
The red tack poles.
and they're red tack poles. It's kind of hard to. And again, I would call it more like a pilot thing. Johnny's going to manage this day to day. And so if we get to a point where we don't feel like we can do it for there's a lot of, I want to say, assumptions and things that we put into what this plan is. And, I think it's number one, it's the only way to get to what we had in the budget. And number two, it's the only possible way of maybe getting out of a backlog of these.
If it's already in the budget to replace them, it wouldn't be 370,000 extra. You said they're $200 more a pole roughly. If they did 100 poles, it'd be 20,000 is what you would need extra over what's budgeted.
Couple things there. So if you look at what was in the budget for red tag meter poles, it was $259,000. So that was for 96 poles at 2,700. These don't come in at 2,700. These coming in right now at 3343. So we underestimated what it cost because we always use the prior years, right? And meter poles are damn near impossible to estimate because one could cost you $20,000 and one can cost you $2,000. It just depends on, it's a chop shop when it comes to these meter poles. And so the cost is coming above, number one. And so the number of 370 is twofold. One is we know that the actual pole cost for each of these is above what we put in the original budget, number one.
By those differences, what was
600,
550, 5?
27 to 33.
So $2,700 is what we originally put.
600.
So $600 per.
Yep. So the math to get there to the number that you're looking for, what I did is I took the budget number, which was $2,700 per pole. Our actuals are coming in roughly at 330. I took the average of those. That's $3,021. Multiply that by 15, and that gives you roughly where we're at in actuals today, which is like 45,000. If you take 45,000 off of the cost that I know it's going to do for the 118, it roughly gives you that 370.
The 370 is for the whole 118.
370 would be to get us complete, yes, through the all 118. But again, I don't know that that's going to happen.
And how's the contract with them written out? It's by pole.
Johnny usually does a not to exceed
It's
basically.
a not to exceed, but no, it's going to be basically per time. So they sat down and went over time. It's going to be time and material essentially. In other words, he sat down and said, this is how many poles we think we can do a week. Here's what the cost is, and here's what they need to be able to do it per week. And that's what I said, we'll manage it, right? And kind of compare it on.
We always have meter. There's so many moving parts.
And you might have already said this, but we budgeted for 259. How much has been spent so far?
45, I thought.
45.
Roughly 45-ish.
So we've got a ways to go even to get to our budgeted amount.
Yeah, we won't get, there's no way we'll get there. You won't get there. If we say today,
Why do we need to add 370,000 to that right now when we've only had,
Yeah,
I'm missing a piece of the puzzle.
Yes,
okay, so to get 118 polls done, quote from them is $414,000. Right there. So just to do the 118, it's,
So we've already approved 259.
you've approved 259. So let's do the math here. So
you need another 414.
yeah, but then that doesn't take into account. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
I don't think you need as
I don't
much
think
as.
it's 370. I'm not coming up with a price.
I think part of it is Johnny is also including some of the carry forward from last year in his budgeted number. Because he's looking at it as he has X amount of dollars to spend on polls in total. So that's where that $147,000 calculated. So we have, part of it, I think, is Johnny, how he's calculating. He views his poll budget as X dollars. And he's adding in, I think, stuff from last
So
year.
we have plenty of funds to get through one month.
Oh, yeah.
So we could have this breakdown, the math broke down a little better for us maybe next month.
No, just give me one second because I've got this broken down right. I know it. So 414 is the total cost. And we said we've spent 45 in actuals. So if you take 414 minus 45, what is that?
370. That's 370.
That's 370. Oh, and then the other was the pullover. So we're going to end up, yeah, okay. So the other part of this
He added
is
150,000 to that for carryovers.
for carryover pulls. So that's the other part of it that's confusing and it's going to happen. So the 539, which is, we combined this all in one number. So the 539, the 259 gets us to the 798, which is what's in budget, right?
That's where the
and the 530.
The 539 was
Okay, so
46.
259 is what we approved in 2025.
Yes, for
And
red
that's the
tax.
Carryover from 24 we didn't use.
there was $147,000 we figured is money that showing up in our current thing, in our current plant in 25, but it's 24 stuff.
So it's 406,000.
Say that again. No, of the total 798,000, that's total in that one line. 140, you need to add 147,000 to that because of carryover from last year. So in other words, polls that
But
were,
we don't need to approve that because that's already been approved.
Yes.
I mean, if it's a printer.
I guess if that's how you-
Use it, if you approve it in 24, whether it's used in 24 or 25, that's already approved. We don't have to approve that again.
that's fair. I was just trying to add it all.
259's already approved, so anything above that,
But it's going to come in as an over budget.
but not today.
And what I'm saying is.
Possibly not in the next month.
This, at the end of this year,
Okay,
you are going to be over by the amounts I'm asking for, 370.
correct, which would be great because that means they're getting a lot more jobs done, but that number, I guess,
Of that 370, 147 is last year.
That's fair, but I just want to make sure you know that. Prove it.
But it's-
It's quite honestly, that wouldn't
Yes.
flow.
Like you're starting from zero when you approve
Yeah.
it in the budget. So
Yes. But the problem is people finished up January, we get the invoice.
but it was already approved.
Yes, it was already.
It was, but that wouldn't have flown years ago. I mean, it doesn't matter. It
That's
should
just
have
how
been,
it works.
it should have been pushed.
That's just how it's supposed to work. though. So what we carry over from 24 and what we approved in.
As long as you guys are okay, there's $147,000 from poll
24.
placements last year
That's
that's
showing-
coming into this budget.
And we're adding that to 259, and anything above that, the board needs to approve.
As long as
That's
you guys
how I
do that, that's.
Would you agree, Steve?
Well, but it wasn't included in the 2025 budget, so I get what they're saying. No, I know, I think we're
Saying the same thing.
Okay.
Yes.
speaking two different languages.
So what's included in the 25 budget? 'Cause now I'm totally.
259. 259 has already been approved.
For 96 polls, is that right?
96 polls at $2,700 each.
Okay, so, but the ask is for 118 polls, including the 96?
No, 118 total. All total,
Another 20 more.
another 20.
But those additional 20 will be at the $3,300 or $3,400 unit price,
35.
as will the 96 for the 700.
So if the work all gets completed, we will approve more money,
Yeah,
but not today. Because the money's there.
yeah.
They're not
Either
getting,
way, as long as you,
118 polls done in the next month. I mean, I think it should, I mean, to approve that lump sum, I don't know. My view is what we carried over that didn't get done, plus the 2025 approved, the 259. Once it exceeds that, the board needs to make it. Am I?
I think if you say it like that, I'm completely 100% on
Did I get
that.
that right?
I think you did. Yes.
You say it again so I can look, I'm sitting in the.
147 is the carryover from 24 that was not used, that the board approved, that they didn't use in.
No, I should, then you should, no, and I shouldn't need
In
a,
the 259.
No, it's in, then 259 was approved in 25. So my view is if they go over the 406, which is 147, if they go over that, then the board needs to approve. But the chances of going over that and getting those polls, if you divide it by.
we're saying the exact same thing.
But you've already ate 45 grand in the 406.
Mhm.
Right. Not the full 400, you've got 360 to work with right now, 361.
I'm not arguing to approve it. I'm just getting the numbers calculated that it doesn't really need proof.
Yeah, and alls I was doing was just trying to put in what that, so when you guys look at this, that one line item is going to include this entire amount that I'm
Well,
saying.
pole replacements at the end of the year is going to show 950. Right. Is what it boils down to, because 147 of it's from last year. We're on the
Once you
same
add the
page.
370.
I think Suzanne, you and I are on the same page.
We're all saying the same thing.
What's the bottom number of the additional ask?
So 379 was in the budget originally. If you guys look at that one line item in your CapEx plan, right? That's going to be 150,000 roughly over because of last year's budget. So add 798 to 150. And then the additional ask is 270 on top of that. Roughly around there. Is it two? Now I got myself screwed up.
Effectively, you need about 140,000 to get everything done.
Yeah.
That's what it's
Say
saying.
that, Matt, say that again.
Effectively, you need roughly about,
I think we need to.
need $155,000 above the budget. to get
Thank you.
Everything.
Okay, and how I'm getting to that number is the 96 that are in the budget,
Yes.
because the unit cost is
Is-
3,400 versus
Yeah.
2,700.
Yes.
You've got those 96 units, you need to
That's
pick
about
up the additional $700 plus the additional 20 poles at the full unit cost,
Yes.
which gives you the 140 or 150,000.
147 roughly.
Okay,
Change.
that's how I.
To get everything done, yeah, it'd be about 100.
And I'll be quite honest,
We'll be thrilled if they're all done.
the chances of getting 118 done are,
Well, I mean, you're gonna have people like me out there who, well, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. It's gonna take me 2 years to get my stuff organized for it to be able to.
Yeah, we got you out of the way.
My house burned down at the time, so I got a pretty good excuse.
and they're confused again.
So we're not going to do anything till you get closer.
Correct.
Well, I can pull the trigger tomorrow, but I'm not going to do it if I don't have approval from a budget standpoint.
But we got a certain amount, we can go ahead and get
You
started.
still have quite a bit.
You still have money sitting there to do it. You don't need to write check for
Get a
300.
number of them done. Right? I mean, I would say, I think that's what we're saying.
I think Johnny has roughly
That's fair.
100,000 to work with at least.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think anybody's arguing getting it done, but I'm like,
But what I don't want to do though is, and I guess it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to be full transparency here that this is what it's going to cost if we do all of it. So I don't think I think that's completely fine that when we run out.
24 and the 25 budget now, when you're asking, that would be 776,000.
Yeah.
Divide that by the polls, you're not going to get that many done this year. There's no way.
Probably not.
Okay. So let's table it until we get closer to the pennies and then you let us know.
But it sounds like that you guys are fine as you're okay with us to moving forward. And I don't need a motion for this, but moving forward with, we're switching our tactic to doing this internally to moving to ARC to do these, which once we get to a point where we get closer, I mean, you're right.
Yeah,
We've got
with the understanding that as those 2 points converge, we need to get.
But are we still the point of contact for the customer?
That's
For our members?
Yeah, because you're talking about our community.
Not at
Not
all.
all, they're doing the whole thing. They're doing the whole caboodle. Is there any risks of any?
Absolutely, there always is when somebody else is doing it, but I think there is when we're doing it too. Arc has been, that's the one reason that we really feel like that this makes a lot of sense, is because Arc knows a lot of community. They're community people, so.
But will this be the SOP moving forward? Or are we just doing this, I'm doing it now just to catch up, but I mean in 26 and beyond, or do you think that we would bring this back in-house once we get caught up?
Yes. Yeah,
No more meter pools after this.
now we have meter pools for another 30 years.
And hopefully these aren't all going pole for pole.
No, they're not,
That's why it takes so long to do it.
but that's,
You have to go from.
if it was pole for pole, we'd have it done by now. In
Yeah,
other words, if all we were doing was just replacing a pole, not a problem. The logistics, and I should have brought that up, the logistics is we're trying to make these meter pedestals to get out of the, that's where it starts complicating things.
and that's why it took me 3 years.
Okay, good deal. Sorry for being so complicated there. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew what we were getting into. I get it. I got dollars in my budget. Sounds like we're all.
Yeah,
Anyway.
kind of the same place.
The delinquent, are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know why you guys have to
We need,
approve
yeah,
this.
but we have in the past, you know, I mean, look, they come down to
Our,
nothing.
our delinquents came from, in 2015, we were 40,000. 2018, we were 36. 2021, 11. And in 2024, we were 2,100. I would say that this is the success of our prepay program, totally.
Without a doubt.
And we've actually touted this to other folks that haven't gone prepay and said, you need to go prepay because this is what happens. And I believe that of that $2,100 that was left, you're only talking a couple accounts that just, so.
All right, so we'll need a motion to.
I'll make a motion.
Second. First and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
That's great.
6-0.
And this information supports the extraordinary adjustment we made for the last 9 months of last year as far as reducing the allowance. This is the proof of it.
Only one thing on the allowance that scares me,
What's that?
large industrial.
Yeah.
They can single-handedly wipe it out quickly.
Just don't want to do it.
Are you talking about the one that's still falling behind?
No. I didn't think that's the one you were talking about, is it?
That's my concern, yeah, is the one that keeps.
No, because their monthly bill isn't gonna,
But they are still far under.
They're trending and the trend is not favorable.
we're talking the amount their bill is a month,
But it's tens of thousands of dollars.
not every month,
Yeah, it is.
is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's real money.
All right,
All right, so next one is the,
We're
I
talking about the same thing.
think we are. I was talking about the big. All right, so operations building, so you guys got the gist of what we're doing. Again, I want to be very clear, we're at the very pre-planning of a building and a total ask here of what we want to do. As you can see from today, we have outgrown our building. There are a lot of EPA type things coming where we've got to have storage for some of this stuff. The next step in this, so really where we've worked with these bids is, and I hate using the word bids because we're really not to a bid, we're to a, hey, this is roughly what we think it's going to cost, right? Not even close. It could be one way at all, big time, because we don't have any, like the civic design is not done. So the topographic stuff, the site drainage plan, do we need a retention pond? Do we not need a retention pond? All those things will be a part of kind of this next step. And so anyway, that's kind of where we're at, is to approve that. I know we had it in the budget. Suzanne, you had asked, and I put the numbers in there as far as kind of what we've put in there in recent years. And I think we put it in 2025's budget, but we went ahead and removed it. And you guys asked for us to come get that from you. So what this will allow us to do is do all the pre-planning that we're going to need in order to get hard bids on what the building would cost us
Versus an estimate.
versus an estimate.
What's the year of the current building? 60s, 1960s?
Oh, at least. I don't remember. It's out there on the thing.
I would say that's, you're close.
I would like that to be noted when we're discussing this amongst every one of our members too. We're not talking revamping this new addition or the new building and stuff, because that is
Correct.
something to think about.
And I also highly recommend that before we would even make a decision,
1967.
1967,
I would also highly recommend that as a board, or you guys as a board and me, that we do an open house before you guys make a decision. And that we bring members in and we open the gates and we let members walk through it. And we have a couple small, just open houses so people can see what we're dealing with and what we're up against. And we can put some of the new site plans once we get it from here. But I would just highly recommend we stay in front of this one. I would rather people come through just like we did our rates last time.
I like
We brought everybody in that was ever impacted. And we went through why we did what we did. I think we do the same thing here. And I want to note that on record, that would be my commitment.
I have absolutely no issues. As a matter of fact, I applaud that approach. I'm going to go back to a comment you made and the question that Tall Steve raised earlier. You said we're going to get bids, plural. We're not going to get bids. We're going to get a bid. And I find that bothersome when we're talking about the amount of money that we're talking. I'm a firm believer, and I understand everything Johnny talked about, and I understand companies' reservations about investing a lot of time for might maybe happen. But when we're talking about the amount of money that we are, and we're talking about a single bid, that causes me a little angst.
Could we, I'm just trying to think of some different routes here because we basically got no bids.
Right.
From two. What you can't do is go spend this money, get a company to come in and do all the work and then use that design to go bid it out.
I agree. I know.
That's where
I
it becomes
understand.
tricky.
and how many companies have been asked? 3?
3.
We need to expand that.
Last time we asked 5, so
Last time we asked 5, 3 came back.
no, last time I got something 4 out of 5.
Did we 4 out of 5?
And it's kind of funny though that Johnny reached a very similar, I mean, the same people.
I thought he said three of the same.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, we can always try.
Because the 3 were 3 of the original 5, right?
Yeah.
yes.
That just,
I mean, the only thing they're going to tell us is
I just like competition. I want the sharpest pencil and the biggest eraser they can put to that bid. And I want them to know that they're bidding against that person, or other people.
so do it like we're doing as far as we're not spending any money on architectural drawings and like soil samples and all that. We're just asking, hey, here's what we're looking for. Kind of a ref.
We did that though, without the architect.
With the other two, with the two that didn't, so you're saying, with the two that didn't, it ends up.
So what you're saying, you need the
You need the
plan.
architectural
And
plans for people to give.
Please
you a
bid
good
this
bid.
job.
Yeah, okay.
You need the plans, you need all the site.
Yeah.
And then you take that and say, bid this job. They're gonna do that. People will do that. But they don't wanna help you design
And then not the bid.
and then that's why you only
Yeah,
have one.
that's why the one put all the effort out.
My issue with the whole project, and I talked to Johnny about this when we were outside, is the footprint of the space here. This is a one and done deal.
Yep.
If we would build something here, we have no more room here. The kind of money that we're talking about for this project, I really feel like we need to think about, does at some point this whole facility need to move?
Yep.
Because there is no more room here.
I agree. This is the one and you can go vertical maybe.
Because when we first started talking about this, to be quite honest, I didn't really think that we were going to be talking about this kind of price tag.
Yep.
And we're going to end up essentially tearing down and demolishing a lot of things that may be of use to someone else that wouldn't necessarily, I mean, we're gonna have a lot of costs in getting rid of all that stuff that we're replacing. I would feel better if we leased it, investigated
That option.
another option, because I don't like the plan of building this completely full here and having no options in the future. And I'm not real crazy about the warehouse being as far back from the operations building as it's gonna be too.
The number that Johnny suggested, where did that number come from?
That was their estimate.
They're not the,
That
not
was the company's estimate based on,
But there's also,
I mean, I know that's just,
there's a ton of assumptions and what ifs. And
sure.
I really don't know what it would end up being. We would have to, okay, so to go back to, so I'm just trying to think of, we'd have to have someone besides who's bid on this today.
Do something. To get in my mind, to get a basic, some basic drawings that 3, 5, 10, 17 companies could work from with sufficient information to give you bids. I want as many bids as practical. 17 is not practical. 3 might be. 5 might be.
Okay, so I think the action is, now I'm gonna have to, I was thinking.
I think there's more front end work at a less specific level. And I don't, that's not,
So do we just hire I was gonna say, that's maybe.
that's kind of what
That's what we were gonna do, isn't it?
It is, but no one wanted to spend that kind of money and not.
but I don't think it needs to be that kind of money. I think you're gonna need to spend some money, but I don't think it needs to be that level. I don't know, maybe it does.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, they come out and they did a lot of measurements and stuff like that already. I mean, there's been a ton of work put in on the front end.
I mean, my perspective is I would be inclined and more in favor of spending a lesser amount of money to an independent firm to draw us something, to give us documents that we can then go out and say, company 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, here are the documents, bid from these and give us quotes.
But aren't they gonna need the same stuff that's in here to do what we're saying? I don't know how it's gonna be any cheaper is my point.
I don't know if they have to go to that degree. I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know. But if you're paying that amount of money to one company,
To be the one that would be doing it.
yeah. I would rather pay that same amount of money to another company.
Independent.
Yeah, and let this company that bid it or estimated it be one of the 5 that bids on it. Because I think you'll recoup with competition. I think you'll recoup that amount of money. If you don't have competition,
Who knows what?
that money's, you have to have competitive bidding. That's my perspective.
All right, so let's back up and see if we take the route. Sounds like, what do you want me to bring back to you then?
That building for about half the price.
Could have had that 10 years ago. But
Fast.
That's for sure. I'd say it's
it is.
That's just me. I just think competition,
No, I get it. I get it. I'm just.
I don't like dealing with one.
I mean, it's gonna take us.
I mean, without plans though, I don't think the other competition is even willing to move forward.
No, and I agree, Matt, and I'm not, I understand that. My point is, rather, if company A who has submitted this bid, let them be one of the 5.
So Billy is basically saying we need an architectural firm, independent. That's what, I think are we all in agreement? I agree.
Do we want to spend this total, what we have here for that? I mean, I don't know that we can
To
do.
get multiple bids, I would agree.
I kind of feel like
Yeah, we can-
with us having an estimate, an idea what this building's gonna cost, we almost need an idea of whether we're willing to go forward with it. There's no sense in spending this money if say, yeah, help 13 million, we're not spending that. Now we're just wasting another 60,000 on something that's gonna go in the file, and 5 years from now, we'll be spending it again, or more.
But didn't we already do this once?
Mhm.
Yeah, but we never
That's
acted on it. Didn't we?
Because we didn't get, we didn't.
We didn't do
We
anything.
got some plans.
Yeah, but
They weren't.
we've got plans today.
We didn't spend, yeah, we didn't have an I don't think we had an architect.
Oh,
I thought we authorized it and we never actually pulled the
We
trigger.
approved it in the
on to
budget,
do
but it never got spent.
We never did it.
So it's.
I've got rough draft.
Where'd they come from?
This company.
They came from this company.
Yeah, we have it today. I could go pull them right now, but I can't use that.
Right.
I get to go out and bid it to other companies.
I
You're gonna have to go spend this amount that I'm asking for tonight to go do what you're asking to do.
I agree. And again, not to sound redundant, but I'm going to say it again. My perspective says you spend that amount of money with an independent firm to give you the documents you need to let 4, 5, 6, 3 companies bid versus one. You're going to save that amount of money.
I'm not against that at all, but that's not what we said we were gonna do. Because last time we were gonna do that and we all said no. Let's do it this way. We didn't want to spend that money. I mean, we did, we put it in the budget, but then we kind of all, but I at least backtracked. and said,
but then we got the one.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, but no, that's easy to say now.
I know that.
I wanted to push it down the road because of fiber too.
So I agree, Dale, completely with your point, and tall Steve also. Like, if we're not willing to try and get our head around the project of this size or cost, then maybe there's no need to even go to the architect.
True. Yeah, do we have an appetite for that number? Because I will tell you, when I heard that number tonight, it made me think, yeah,
But that's the, if you were on the internet, you would have seen the number earlier today because it was already on the internet.
It was. It was.
really?
So
How did that get out there?
is it possible that number could decrease significantly? Or do you think it's only going to?
Well, you could always make, reductions, but if you're looking long-term needed, how much reductions are you willing to make? If you're looking 30 years down the road, I'm more into the revamp the current space we have, because by the time you get space to build it and the area to build it, I'm not opposing what Jason's saying, but when you talk about the land and finding the location, there's not a ton of land for sale right now. And if there's any land for sale, people are going to want it tomorrow. So that concerns me.
I agree.
We started thinking of like places, I mean, because we kicked this idea around too, and we started looking, it's like the amount of money it's gonna cost you just for the freaking land.
I would rather do the renovation, let's say 30 down the road, and if the time comes that we explode and we have housing additions and we need that, we have a second location.
I agree.
Say that again, Suzanne,
If the amount, within less than 30 years, we expand and let's say there's housing additions pop up and toward, Vandalia Road, the areas that Johnny was speaking of earlier, does expand and we need to increase. Nothing says we can't do a second location.
Yeah, we could have done that, in my opinion, to the old fire station was always my thought of like, if you had to expand something like that. I think that's the mitigation to Jason's point, that long-term, do you outgrow this is.
You don't need a single big new location. You might have to
Have a single one location. I completely agree with Suzanne's point on that. I guess the main thing is is there an appetite and do you guys approve the money to go? I'm not against going and getting an independent company to do the site work that we need to do to get better quotes. I can quite honestly, knowing what folks have paid for buildings and stuff, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot different. I really don't. I mean, if you think about so it was 8 million 2 years ago, and it was minus the big warehouse in the back 3 years ago, whatever it was, maybe 4. So something like it didn't. You ain't gonna get it much cheaper. It is what it is. I mean, this thing, there's no brick on it. This is not a Taj Mahal.
Right, but what their building expense for to justify it to the members who we know are going to be concerned with this building, I think multiple bids are almost.
I don't disagree.
I agree with Daniel.
To rebut, it doesn't need to be the Taj Mahal. It's a warehouse.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's what people are gonna
It's
see.
it's not high finish, it's not high-end finish office space, glass, and, I mean, it's
low space.
The one not that far down the road over, it's perfect. And they've got offices in it. It does what they need it to do. It is not a,
You're referring to. I don't disagree that we need to do the updates. I'm just, right now, when we haven't signed up the first person yet for fiber, I'm having a hard time seeing, pulling the trigger, you know what I mean? Being willing to have an appetite for that kind of money
the only thing
in the near future.
The only thing I would say that has changed with fiber in my, and again, this is just Brenda Plamp's opinion, is, when we were looking at a $52, $55 million build, and we were going to have this whole build out to all of our members, and it changing now, I'll say it out loud. If this fiber business doesn't go great, this building is not going to, it's going to cause some heartaches, but it is not going to disrupt your financial health.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. Let's say that we do have an appetite for a new building project, and it's going to be in 3 phases. So what's the time span of that, and how are you proposing, Matthew, that we would pay for this?
Financing.
It'd be financed. It'd be like a 3-year. The initial thought was it'd be a 3-year program, and the real money would come in year 3. I mean, the first phase is not that much money.
Well, because according to the descriptions, it was, a lot of it was site work, moving the fence, parking lots,
Getting
rebuilding.
everything ready.
So,
But I think to where Jason's going is, and sorry to interrupt you, but I think when we do this cost of service study, we have kind of an idea of this number. We do an analysis with that, because quite honestly, if we're going to do an open house, and we're going to bring members in, they ought to know this is what it's going to cost on your bill.
so that's kind of where I was going. I'm not really that crazy about saying I'm for it or against it until I see the cost of service study and what the new rates from Hoosier are going to, how they are going to impact our members. Because at the end of the day, the members are going to pay the rates and the members are going to pay for the building, right? So if we have assumptions based on the information that we've been given from Hoosier, what we think the roads look like, and it would be favorable. We're not expecting anything crazy, but we haven't seen the cost of service study work yet. I just kind of feel like I would like to know where that's going to land before.
Well, yeah, but I don't think we're making a building decision right now. We're making, do we want to go spend money on architecture so that we can go?
No, we are deciding if we're going to spend money on a building, because just like he said, if no one wants to spend $12 million, or we don't think we do, then we're not going to hire an architect.
That's a good point.
That's why I put that on the email the other day. I'm not comfortable making this decision over email until we discuss this as a board, because I don't know that I have the appetite for a $12 million project. Just to be honest.
So my question then is, the back building is pretty much shot. What do we do then if we're not going to replace it? I mean,
Define shop. And which building are you talking about? The warehouse or the building they're operating out
the
of?
building we're operating out of,
Shop, what's that mean exactly?
it's functionally obsolete. We have to special order our vehicles. We don't have enough space for all our vehicles as is.
Right now you have like a pickup and a 1-ton dually and a spare bucket truck outside, right? I mean, that's what I saw out there. In my mind, I have a hard time justifying this building because those 3 vehicles are sitting outside, just to be honest.
Unless we have a big snowstorm and those three are being used from a standpoint of bird dogging.
There's more vehicles than that outside. It's not too many.
But a building project can't be decided upon,
Roofs.
God in a snowstorm. I mean, you can't justify a new building because of that. I'm not saying it's not a good example, but you can't really justify. I mean, I think we've talked about this since the minute I got on the board, and it's a 1967 building. I feel like there's improvements and or construction that needs to be done. But I do think broadband, cost of service study, all that's coming up with what, 6 months?
less.
I mean, we've talked about it for how many years, what months waiting to determine those. I think those are two big factors in it, don't you?
No, I do. I was just thinking of moving forward with, and I get it, why spend the architectural money if no one has the appetite? But I just thought you could get out in front of it and keep work moving on the building project. That's my only thought.
I'm not saying I'm totally opposed, but I want to hear what everyone else is. I mean, maybe we do need to hire the architect and get a plan and say, hey, we can do that, this footprint here, or hey, we someone in the county is helping us out with this deal, and we're gonna move up. We can put this on this footprint. Maybe there's some optionality there that we can, if we don't pull the trigger in the next 6 months, we can use it in the next year. Or I don't know.
Just a general question, what are the pros and cons of maintaining this location, but having an additional location, a satellite location for some of our stuff? I mean, obviously you got the cost of procuring the location.
If we're big enough to where we outgrow this, and this is just my gut here, if we outgrow the building that he showed you today, we're going to be big enough that it's really not going to be as critical to have everybody in one.
The funds will be there.
Yeah, the funds are going to be there, number one. Number two, it's not going to really be a big deal if people report across the road or across the town. I mean, there's a lot of other co-ops that do that today, right? So my opinion is, I think Suzanne brought up a really good point that I don't think you outgrow it. I don't think it hurts to have two sites if you need it in the future, and you'll have the funds to.
25 or 30 years from now.
Yeah, we won't be here.
I would say that building probably gets you the same amount of time as this one did. Yeah. Gets you the next 50 years. Maybe for 2 months, but not full time.
I don't know what changes in, I don't know what really changes in fiber. There was no thought of us pulling the trigger on a multi-million-dollar building in the next 4 to 5 months. That's not the point here. I think the point is let's keep the work moving along on this, because someday it's going to have, in my opinion, it's going to have to be done. I think you're running out of space for things that need to be indoors and things like that. But I think the thought was let's keep it moving and spend some money on doing I think if you go back and look at the plans that we had from a while back, I mean, I would argue that those were, I think our plans are way in line with what we need, right? We don't need carpet back in a warehouse type area. We don't need this. We don't need that. I just think to keep it moving along. Again, I don't know that. I think at some point in time, you're gonna have to do something with this building, regardless of what you do with what happens with fiber. And therefore you may as well keep the wheels moving. That's my point. But I don't disagree with the multiple bids, and that's the only way you're gonna get there.
Question isn't so much, something needs to be done, it's just what.
Ryan, what are you thinking?
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a tough decision, but I do believe we made the decision about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we had it in the budget to go forward with it. And I know things change over time. Of course, we do have fiber now. What do you think the bottom dollar would be if we were to contact an architectural firm of doing something? Do we have any?
I don't know how it's gonna be any cheaper than what they're giving you here. This is the stuff they need to go to the next step.
That's what
I think it's probably more because these guys have already invested a bunch.
Well, they've already, yeah, they're much more familiar with.
It's gonna be more than.
They're much,
If you really want.
they're much more specific already.
So we've never used an architect in the past. These talks have came up. No, it's all just been estimate stuff that
No, they,
done.
it was how many years ago? Because this
See,
is way
I don't-
before my time.
I don't.
I think it was like 20 years ago they did.
See, I wasn't on.
But what I would suggest is we don't believe that that is a move forward. The price of that would be 3 times what you're seeing now, without a doubt. It doesn't do you any good for today.
I just didn't know how long ago that was that had been done.
I think it was over 15 years ago.
Yeah, it probably was.
The old plans that they had done years and years and years ago wasn't less, I don't know. It was well before my time.
It's one of my problems. I don't really agree with what they want to do on those drawings either. All the office space that they want. You're moving people out of this office to go into that office, and then you have so much of this office empty.
Vacancy here.
And then there's so much empty space already built into that office that you're
We thought about that
so
though.
much.
We thought about it. What, if you take off 3 or 4 offices, it's not going to make any difference in your number whatsoever.
I
The
think
biggest,
the office space in that building could go away because you have a conference room attached to the truck side, an office there. Like, I don't know why all these offices in here.
Brian, I agree with you. I think that the whole thing is a little over.
10 offices and 3
Yeah.
boardrooms is a little much
And,
for.
you know, the bays and the wash and all that stuff. I feel like this whole project could be shrunk down a little, but in my mind, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, so we cut this and we do this and we do that. And how much are we're still going to have this huge price tag.
well,
I don't think we're going to save that much money.
I think what you do though, so this is at least my thought is that, you know, we're going to start out with a plan and we're going to work with you guys to make it skinnier, I would assume. Right. And so this doesn't necessarily end up being what it is. I don't think, but I'll be quite honest. I don't think if you cut out half these offices, it's going to make it's the rounding errors.
Yeah, I just generally, I appreciate all the work that's been put into it because I know there's a bunch. That being said, for me personally to digest and understand everything that Johnny talked about, showed us, we passed around the table without having time to collectively talk about the same item rather than Johnny talking about one item and me looking at something and Brian looking at something, Steve looking at something. I need more focused time collectively so that all 7 of us, 8, 9 of us can sit and talk about the back building concurrently instead of hearing Johnny talk and me trying to look at the prints that are set around. I mean, I would be in favor. I don't think the data's, but I want it to be presented to everybody simultaneously so we can say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Steve questions, Dale, and get, okay, now let's go to the next page rather than the way it was done tonight. And I understand why. And again, I appreciate the deed because it's a big piece. It's a big.
No, I get it.
And I'm fine with all that, but I think right now we just need to, I'm looking at the whole number. Okay. Not willing to deal with this with the 13 million. All the other stuff we really don't need to worry about, right? No, I'm looking at it, so.
My problem is not the 13 million as much as I don't fundamentally agree with what they have there. Yeah.
Well, I'll take it a step further. I don't fully understand what they have there because I was trying to look at it while Johnny was talking.
Yeah, I guess.
That's my perspective.
We had a special meeting about this.
Well,
Maybe.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was thinking. When would that be, when would that time be, though, time frame? I mean,
When you fund 13 million.
Well,
Since we all play launch.
here we go.
I'm not generous.
But see,
Are you suggesting?
Steve, I mean,
No, no.
if you lead to it, if there's not an appetite
Then why have that?
for 10 million. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe we should back up, take the dollar amount off of it, because really right now it is a wag. It's a wild ass guess on the price. Maybe we need to take a step back and determine, okay, we're committed that we need to do something. Maybe we shot for the moon right out of the gate when everyone wasn't completely on board with we need to do something. Maybe we need to get there first and agree, hey, let's hire a firm or let's get an architect in here and let's start from scratch. This is what we're gonna need to do. I don't know.
Is there a way to hire the architect and actually have Johnny and this group like design their requirements almost, because I'll be quite honest, there's no way you're gonna get, I mean, I saw this committee work and they never agreed on things. You guys are gonna all disagree on different things. I mean, there's no way, I think, but if you had an architect facilitate the discussion of like, well, this is why we did that. This is why we did this. Or this is why this makes sense. Maybe the next step is to talk to someone like that to say, how can you work with a group of 7 and, you know, Johnny and whoever else to put together plans that the whole group can sign up for? I don't know. I've seen what was in the original plan. And then Johnny got here and now it looks completely different. Brian saying he doesn't like that plan. Dale, you said, I mean, so there's no way to get to a plan without.
That's why I'm saying, let's go back and commit to an established commitment. We all agree that we need to do something. I think that would be
A good start.
I could get behind that and not have hey, we need to do it in the next 2 weeks because we have to do this, and this, or it's got to be done in 6 months. Like, okay, baby steps here. We need to do something about this. This is coming. I think would be step 1. And then let's hire somebody to help us figure it out. They'll obviously work with Johnny and the plans that he's made or
Right.
whatever, but I kind of feel like that's step 1 because I don't know that it's going to be 12 million or 13 million. It might be 15 or it might be 9. I don't know.
I think that's very well said, Jason, and I think that's a good step. I mean, maybe we can decide, are we committed to realizing that we need to make some considerations here? You know, like, and then talk about it at the next meeting or have a special meeting of sorts, go through what we think we need done and then maybe make a plan then. When we spend a lot of time, spent a lot of time talking through this now, but I think the understanding's there that maybe we're a little uncomfortable with going forward with what we were presented with today. But I think if everybody's good, and I don't know that we need to vote anything, but are we committed of realizing that there's something that does need to be done in the future?
But I mean, that would be, let's get an architect, right?
Well, that's where I was headed earlier, but I don't know that everybody even agreed upon that. But I think it's about, I think it is that, with finding somebody that we can work with. Is that an architect? Or is there somebody else that does some kind of, helps us make the definitive decision? that works with the board and Johnny and whoever else is involved going forward.
That's where my mind's at. I don't know who does that type of work, but I don't know. I think that it still comes down to the point though, are you willing to spend these types of numbers to ultimately get to a plan that's gonna cost you what you've already seen?
Yeah, I mean,
there's nothing new here. It is what it is.
But I think, based on what Brian mentioned, we need to go through this.
I don't think there's any
Much-
hurry. Yeah, I don't know that there's any hurry. I just think we need to. Yeah, I don't.
We just need to continue.
Keep the ball going.
Continue the
here.
process.
And I could be convinced that that is needed. I'm just like right now, what I've been explained, I don't see the need for that. So like Dale said, we need more than just what we had tonight.
But we will need some type. I don't disagree with you, Brad. I'm saying we're going to need some type because what you think is going to be completely. I've seen it happen. I mean, here internally.
But we're the ones approving it, so
Absolutely.
we all need to be convinced.
Absolutely.
And or go to other locations.
Well,
I've been to Rep Shelby just on their annual meeting, but I didn't sit there and look around at the garage doors of the offices. I'm
And there's been two that are pretty recent. We go to Bartholomew and I'll go to Whitewater.
And I'm going
It's
to.
never a bad idea. I mean, I haven't gone to look specifically at what they are because it
So
wasn't.
maybe that's the commitment to make.
and I think the important thing is commitment. I think I think we're all convinced that there is a need. There's a legitimate need.
And yeah, I think
I just don't know that it's this big. Maybe it's this big. Maybe it's this big. I don't know. But I think that educational process to determine it is what we need to convince.
I think as a board, we can state we're going to continue this, a process and maybe define that process along the way. But it's continue to talk and then make the determination of really where we need to head. Fair enough. And so we certainly have something on the agenda for next month and maybe we can try to come up with a plan on whether it's visiting a few other REMCs
Might not be a bad.
and then going from there. It's probably a good stopping point because we're going to get legal on here. I'll close the open session now, but we're going to come back to complete the open session. Jason, I wanted to congratulate you on your election at Hoosier Energy Board, and you can let us know what's new at Hoosier Energy.
Yeah, we had a board meeting on the 12th. I just want to mention a couple things. The new ERA funding that Hoosier was awarded, the $677 million for the Palisades project, that was all kind of put on hold with the administration change. That has opened up. There is a community benefit plan that Hoosier has to develop for this grant. So basically, and the government has not said how much they have to give away or in what format. So Hoosier started to put some stuff together. One of the ideas is that our community trust fund, each distribution co-op would get an additional $20,000 a year for their trust. For us, that would double it, I think. So that would be significant. That's a 5-year distribution. That'd be an annual payment for 5 years. So that may be coming. That's just one of the ideas that was floated on that. We have a generation plant, Holland. You guys have probably heard we own with Wabash Valley. It's going to be down for a planned outage for work, but it's going to be about $30+ million planned outage. So there'll be a regulatory asset established, but it'll be the largest outage in that plant's history, but it's getting some age on it. So the Wabash will pay half of that. And then I wanted to mention that MISO has an annual capacity auction. And this last auction, the price was up 22%, 22x over a year ago for capacity. So why is that important to us? That's why we did the Palisades project, and that's why we bought the gas plant. It's less than $1 million impact from the whole Hoosiers budget per year. So it's minimal, but if we were exposed to the market we would be facing significant increases. So since we made those moves, we're kind of insulated from that for now. So that was a really big win.
That's it. All right, so thank you. And I'll briefly talk about the IC board. Although we didn't have any meeting last month, or this, excuse me, in May. The minutes are, you can see them from April. I just wanted to remind everybody again about the IC, the retreat, the director's retreat that's going to be held at Fort Wayne in July, the 25th and 26th. And you have until July 1st to sign up for that if you're interested. So that's really all I have. We do have I think I mentioned at last meeting, we do have a regional meeting coming up here in the middle of June at Whitewater. So the next topic is any director training or conferences attended this last month. Brian and I went to the legislative conference, and Brian, anything you'd like to share?
It was a good networking event. Saw a lot of people from neighboring co-ops and all across the country. Then we got to, on one of the days, we got to do a little one-on-one, not one-on-one, the state of Indiana all got together and met with represent our senators and
Those senators, and there was,
congressmen, congresspeople.
and we did that on Capitol Hill.
At Capitol Hill, yeah, in the basement.
Yeah.
Didn't really get to go inside. Didn't really feel like you're inside that building.
But it was good. There was a delegation, from what I understand, of about 2,000 from the country, and I think Indiana had around 80.
We were like the
delegates.
fifth in the country.
Yeah.
The state had the most, ranked fifth.
The unfortunate part was when they had scheduled time slots for the senators and the Congress folks, but at that point in time, they didn't know if they were going to be busy, or they had to send somebody else in place of them being able to be there. So I know we didn't see quite as many as I think was originally scheduled, but it was.
One of their aides seemed like they were almost more knowledgeable than some of the
Yeah, they were on top of
people that
things.
showed up.
They were on top of things. We heard, as I said, from both senators and Senator Young. I don't think he took one question because he spoke for about 5 or 6 minutes and had to go. So the whole process was really about engagement and some asks from IEC's perspective anyway. All in all, it was a good experience. Anything else, Brian, about that? All right, does anybody have anything else that we need to discuss? Okay, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right,
Okay.
we are adjourned.